May I tell you a true story from World War II in Iraq? There was an officer in the British Army who was a specialist on Arab matters. It was a Highland regiment, yes. And he spoke Arabic fluently. One day he left to go on what we call detached duty, and he did what he had to do. And on his way back to rejoin his regiment, he was captured by a group whom we called bandits, right, and who called themselves patriots.
Of course.
And they treated him very courteously. They tied him hand and foot, and they said, we're going to kill you, of course, but not immediately, because our leader is away and we want to keep him. We want to keep you alive until he gets back so that he can meet you and talk to you. And this officer said, well, I'm your prisoner, you will do with me as you choose, but do you mind telling me why you want to kill me? And they said, well, it's obvious, because you're English. And he said, well, kill me if you must, but not for the wrong reason. I am not English. And they said to him, what do you mean you're not English? You're an English officer, you're wearing an English uniform. He said, no. He said, I'm not English. And they said, well, what are you? He said, I'm a Scot. And they said, what's that? Hadn't a clue. So he tried to explain to them that in Britain there were two people, Scots in the north, English in the south. He said, we have a common government which is called British, we serve in the same army which is called British, wear the same uniform which is British. Just as here in Iraq, you have an Iraqi government and an Iraqi army, you have Kurds in the north and Arabs in the south, you're all Iraqis, but a Kurd is not an Arab and an Arab is not a Kurd, but it's like that with us. An Englishman is not a Scot and a Scot is not an Englishman, and I am a Scot. There was a moment of silence, and then one of them came up to him with a knife, said, don't be alarmed, I'm cutting your bonds. We wouldn't dream of harming a fellow Kurd.
That's a great one.
And he said, but would you be willing to stay as our guest overnight so that our leader may have the privilege of meeting you and talking to you? This is not a joke, I mean, this really happened.
Right.